Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first. No. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first how-to series of Forza Horizon 5. I almost said motorsport. Speaking of motorsport, they need to release another motorsport anytime soon because the Horizon series is cool and all, but it's getting stale. You feel me? The real premise of this video is to show new players just the basics and the ins and outs of how to tune a drift car. Do you even need to tune a drift car? How to drift in the first place? It's going to be a whole series, but today we're going to focus on picking a car, upgrades, and then early methodology to start drifting. As an example, we're going to use this 350Z. I just bought it. All I did was make it look stance. Put a paint on it. I did some upgrades, but it's gonna be very basics. First thing I did was I went to springs and dampers and put it on the drift springs and dampers. Now, it's not as simple as, oh, it says drift, so pick drift. For years, race springs and dampers were the thing in the game. Drift just gets you more angle, a little bit. You can get a little bit more of a slammed look, but the drift ones is what I've learned to embrace and really just use it. Again, just for more angle. Roll bars, so front anti-roll bars and then rear anti-roll bars. Those are more important for the tuning section. You can do without them. You can honestly do without the spring and dampers. And then weight reduction. Might as well make it as light as possible. What is it? Base 3,200 and then with the race 2,600, which is actually pretty good. Now when it comes to power components, you don't need a car that has 18,000 horsepower like the Formula D's cars. Not necessary at all. My mantra is anything above 300 is more than enough. You can tune out anything you want, so you can make a 300 horsepower car almost feel like a Formula D car. That's not the most accurate statement, of course. You won't have horsepower to rely on to push you through a corner, but you can tune the car so that it feels like power isn't lacking. So in this area, all I did was add a race exhaust. The camshaft is probably one of the first upgrades that I do, just because if you look at the bottom right performance chart, you see that the RPM increases with each subsequent upgrade. I just go for the race cam so I get the most out of my power band, and then everything else is really up to the individual. This is nice, the flywheel, and I'll put it in right now, is because it does increase the weight. Does it? It decreases the weight, excuse me. And I mean, there's nothing that hurts with just losing a bit of weight there. And then everything else, again, up to preference. This one, again, 382, 322, that's more than enough. And that's just doing these two couple of upgrades. One thing that I do want to touch upon is tire compounds. Now, there are these drift tire compounds that will give you a lot of grip. I'm never a fan of them. Again, because my car's never pushed that much horsepower to even warrant these. I either keep it stock, I go street, maybe sport, but most of my cars that I have in my garage are street or stock tire compound. That's personal preference. Go ahead, feel free to put on the drift tire compounds. It's, again, all this drift tuning, all these drift cars are personal preference and all subjective. Some people will say drift tires are 100% the most recommended. Might as well put them on. I do what floats your boat. I stock street. I don't feel a difference. Now you can do rear track width and the front track width. This just shows you. It just widens it out a little bit. I'm just gonna put them on there just because. Stance. Also, look at that fitment, bro. Look at that fitment, bro. And that's pretty much it. Everything else is, again, subjective. Brakes. Personally, I never put brakes in my car because I could care less. It's a video game at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you could be hyper realistic if you want, but differential, I do. So recently they're all 2-way, like except the sport one is a 1.5 way. Can't really describe them. I'm not so sure what the difference between 1.5 way and 2-way is. So my drift diff, race diff, I use race diff, I use drift diff as of recent, but I can't tell the difference. A lot of this is, right, like they say it's all specifically for drift, so always use anything labeled as drift, but that's fine. But then also race diff, ever since before they even introduced any of this drift diff, it was always race diff, so you can have that customization. What I want to do now is take you guys through this little corner right here. Essentially, drifting isn't the most difficult thing if you want, like, once you think about it. So to explain it, I'm just gonna rev my engine and just hold the left stick to the left and hold the gas. I'm not doing anything. Look, I'm letting go. I let go of the left stick as well. I'm just letting it do its thing. One thing that I learned very quickly is that it's just drifting is nothing but controlling this action right here. So now I apply some counter steer and I straighten out. Now I'm just going left to right. That's fine. Just keep holding the gas. What you need to get accustomed to is just holding the gas and being able to correct it just by applying the correct amount of steer. Next, once you feel comfortable doing that in first, you move up to second. It's the same action. Yours might look a little choppy, right? You might be unconfident holding the gas. You might be unconfident in the actual counter steer portion of all this, but that's fine. It'll come with practice, and you'll figure out that, okay, in reality, you aren't really doing a lot of throttle control, clutch control. I'm just holding the gas right here. You're just holding the gas and steering it with the left stick again. You see this? I'm just letting the rear kick out, and then I'm controlling it by using counter steer. And then counter steer, so if you've seen cars, turn the opposite direction you want to go. So if I'm going right, I'm going left to keep it on the path. It's weird because, like, drifting isn't one of those things where there's a formula of how to do it. Yeah, you can learn how to do your brake initiations, your clutch kicks, your e-brake entries where you just pull the e-brake, like, the Drift Bible 101, right? But those are really just initiation techniques, and once you're in the actual slide, you're just maintaining it. You're holding the gas, applying counter steer. You're not really doing anything special. There's no secret feathering technique. There's no secret counter steer technique. There's no tuning that you can put in place where it just makes the car feel like it's on rails while it's drifting. You just have to go out there and experience. The best way I can explain it is, once you have the grounding principles of your car, like you know what car you're gonna use, you know what the power you feel comfortable at, you have all that figured out. It's honestly going in and just driving around, and at first you can learn how to do e-brake entries, and I can explain that one at least. So they're coming up to a turn, this right-hander, I hold the e-brake and I just let it kick out, and then you apply gas and you just counter steer. That's it. You don't have to do that for every corner. You can use the weight, transition. Let the car do the work for you. Look, e-brake, and then you just keep it going. E-brake, keep it going. I'm holding the gas. I'm flooring the gas right now. There's no half lift, half anything. The only way, I'm not saying that's how you want to drift, but if you got to slow down, let go of the gas a little bit, but there's no secret to it. E-brake, let it kick out, gas, counter steer. Gas, counter steer, initiation. And that's the formula right there. Initiation, gas, and counter steer at the same time. And don't worry about the gears. The gears aren't going to break. It's a game, remember? So if you just want to hold down the gas and just spin out and just do its own thing, then that's more than you're okay. Eventually you're gonna figure it out. Eventually you're gonna start realizing that the throttle controls the rear of the car, and I'm only really focusing on applying any counter steer. Then you're gonna your different initiation techniques, like e-brakes or clutch kicks, and we can go into all that in a little bit. You can also watch Drift Bible. If you watch Drift Bible with Keiichi Tsuchiya, you'll know what all this is. I'm not going to get into it. I will say I do need transmission tuning on this, because the stock transmission is kind of lame. But even then, this is no tuning at all. This is bass, and this feels perfectly fine. Yeah, the gears can be a little bit better, but it's not required. Alright, so I'm gonna take you guys through one of the probably the best drift zone in the game, and the only one I care about. It's the main one on the volcano. So a respectable score on this is at least 1 million. Right, 1 million on this drift zone is like, alright, it's probably a good car, and you know, skill wise, you're probably already there. And right now, like, yeah, I can point out some like issues about the car right now that I want to personally fix, like gearing. But even then, it's not even anything that warrants that this car is broken or anything, or that the gears being bad on it, of course, is something that for usability wise will make it a bit more comfortable for you to drift. But again, it's not necessary. And these how-to guides are, you kind of want to see them and you kind of want informative information, but the best type of like advice you can get of how to get good at drifting is picking a car that you're comfortable with, sticking to that car you're comfortable with, and just going out and getting some seat time. Like, a lot of this run is just going back and forth, and yeah, the power, like, see, with the Formula D cars you can just power through everything, like, that's fine, but there's not really that much fun. Those cars get pretty old really soon because it's not much of a struggle. But being able to get close to those cars and like something with 300 horsepower, there's just kind of a sense, like, there's an ego boost there, of course, but you work for it more. It's more of a earned not given type of situation. Yeah, with the Formula D cars, there's still some skill behind it, but there's less of a skill gap there. And you can see my other videos. My other cars have what, 500 horsepower, and the tuning process on that is, yeah, I mean, you can see them. It's a grueling process. Not grueling, but it just takes a lot of runs going down a specific section, not just the volcano section, but any type of road. Runs of just feeling everything out, and you can go into a detailed in another video of how to tune. And it's not as scientific as you think. And then some of my videos I even pointed out, I'm just guessing, eyeballing everything. There is a frame of reference there. There's some, logic behind it, but other than that, it's not like, oh, my anti-roll bars need to be at 11.3 because it's very fluid. 918 isn't that bad for what this car is. Yeah, but that's pretty much the episode. Next episode is going to be how to actually tune a car, and then that's the end of this episode. And the next one, I'll get into how to actually tune a car, but it's not rocket science. It's not something that you even have to know. There's nothing that you actually have to know about cars in a sense. Yeah, there's some basic ideologies there, but again, very straightforward. It's a game. You don't even have to touch tuning. You can just put in the right amount of power and you can be fine. But if tuning is, as you can see from my other videos, just the what I find most satisfaction, because there's just an iterative process of going through, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and truly making a car fit a specific mold that I have for myself as far as my driving style. And that's another thing, figuring out your driving style, but we can get into that in the next video. Later, foos.